Hi, my name is William Ocasio. I'm a professor of management and organizations at the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. And today I'm here to talk about one of my papers, Toward an Attention-Based View of the Firm. And I was so honored that this paper won the Chendell Prize of the best paper at Strategic Management Society in 2011. So this is a paper that actually was the very first paper that I wrote as an assistant professor at Kellogg, although the ideas from this paper came partly from my dissertation and partly from some work that I was doing while I was previously an assistant professor at MIT teaching strategy. And the paper, in many ways, it's an ambitious paper. The paper says that the aim of the paper is to try to explain how firms behave. But really, it's a bit more narrow subject, although still a very ambitious one, is how to explain when and how firms adapt to their environment. And the short answer is that firms adapt to the environment to the extent they pay attention to significant issues of the environment, and also in terms of the way that the particular solutions, the particular answers they use, how they pay attention to the environment. It's an important question because there's a lot of what I would call failures of attention that occur in organizations of all types. Now, this theory is framed as a theory in terms of for-profit organizations, but we can think about it as more applicable to all sorts of organizations, whether it be in the government, the not-for-profit sector, or the for-profit sector. So to give you sort of some big examples of attentional failures, one example is the attentional failure of the CIA with respect to Al-Qaeda that happened prior to 9/11. The CIA was aware of some information regarding what became the perpetrators of 9/11. They were training in the Arizona to fly the jets, but they didn't really pay attention to it. They did not do anything about it. They did not really they actually let them come back into the country, and of course we know what happened afterwards. Failures of attention happen at all levels in industries and organization. We can think about something that happened for many decades in the U.S. automobile industry. Had they inadequately paid attention to the competition from foreign competitors, particularly the Japanese, but also German manufacturers there. Here, the issue was less completely ignoring what was going on. Yes, they did pay attention to it to a certain extent, but they thought about it as an issue of these are competing in the small car segment. Now, of course, we know that that was just one aspect of the competitive strategies of the Japanese and foreign manufacturers, and the United States automobile industry hasn't really recovered from these failures of attention. One of the things that I've been working on is attention in the context of large multi-business corporations. So previously, I've studied the case of General Electric, and one of the things that we think General Electric does relatively well is actually how they manage their attention with respect to the strategic issues and strategic initiatives of their independent businesses. Okay. So what does the paper do? Well, first of all, it's important to think about how I define attention in the paper. And I define attention in a pretty broad way. So attention is defined as the noticing, encoding, interpreting, and focusing time and energy on a particular set of issues and environments. That is, the problems, the solutions, the initiatives faced by the organization. If you notice from this particular definition, attention here is more than noticing it. So it's not sufficient from this perspective that a firm notices that there's a problem. It means that they actually are spending some time and effort on the problem and trying to interpret, see what it means for the organization in a way that the organization is going to be able to more effectively respond to the issues that it's confronted in the environment. So this is important because in some people define attention more narrowly with respect to noticing. Here we're defining attention very much more broadly. So the thing is, as I said, this is a theory paper, and one of the things that theory papers does is well, look, what are the underlying principles that explain attention by firms? I propose three underlying principles. The first one, the most general one, is the principle of focus of attention. What firms do, firm actions, firms' decisions, is really can be explained by what are the particular issues and answers that they pay attention to. So this puts attention central to understanding and explaining the strategic behavior and decision of firms. Now, this is, in many ways, when this paper gets cited, a lot of it does get cited for this particular principle. Now, in many ways, here, this is an idea that I didn't come up with in the paper. In many ways, I drew attention to the importance of attention, but this really comes from other perspectives, particularly from the Carnegie School perspective and the behavioral theory of the firm, people like Herbert Simon and Sider and March. I mean, Herbert Simon was particularly influential in the development of the paper, and he has a really interesting quote that has been used before, which is that in a world where there is a lot of information, the problem is that there is a scarcity of attention. And so in the world that we live in, with so much globalization, so much technological development, so many competitors, there's so much complexity, then the problem is not a lack of information that firms face. The problem is a scarcity of attention. And attention then is a scarce resource. And here the principle of focus on attention says that with respect to these scarce resources, one way to explain is how is it that how is it that firms use this scarce resource? And it is by focusing their attention on certain things and not focusing the attention on others. So, the CIA was focusing their attention on the Cold War. They were focusing their attention on Iraq. They were not focusing their attention on Al-Qaeda. That lack of focus of attention led to the attentional failure with respect to 9/11. General Motors was not focusing their attention on with respect to Japanese competition on the small cars, not in terms of their ability to have a superior technology such that as they had with their just-in-time system. So that's the notion of the focus of attention. The second principle, which I think it's sort of in many ways the most important or innovative contribution within the paper, is actually one that I think is perhaps people have a harder time understanding it. And so this is what I call the principle of situated attention. The idea here is that individuals, decision makers, they're not always paying attention to the same thing. People can pay attention to a particular set of issues at one moment in time and then not pay attention to it in other moments in time. So when we're talking about situation, I'm talking very concretely in terms of situations in time and space. This is really important for issues like strategic planning, because one of the things, my experience, both in terms of participating and consulting with respect to issues of strategic planning, is one of the problems that strategic planning doesn't work is that people pay attention to the discussions in strategic planning within the strategic planning meeting, and then they go back to the companies, to their regular day operation, and they forget. They don't pay attention anymore to what was being discussed, the particular agendas that were being part of the discussion, or even part of the decisions that were made as part of the strategic planning meeting. So when we have to think about the situated attention, is really recognizing what's really happening in the moment, and attention can shift from one part of the organization to the other, and from one time to the another, and that includes attention of the same people that might be not consistent over time. So that's the second principle of situated attention. And then the third principle, the final one of the three, is what I call the structural distribution of attention. Here, in the structural distribution of attention, I basically make the argument that the firm basically structures the attention of decision makers within the different situations that the firm has. So this idea is that there is actually a pattern established by the firm and its formal and informal structures that shapes how attention occurs in different ways, in different places throughout the firm. So what I do then with respect to the structural distribution of attention is then identify a set of what are these different determinants of the structural distribution of attention. And they are as follows. The first one that I talk about is the rules of the game. Basically, in many ways, you can think about this model as of the structural distribution of attention as kind of a political process cognitive model where we have these different individuals who are trying to get ahead, but there's a particular rules of the game, or you could also call it a particular logic that how they operate. So that really sort of determines, what is the underlying agenda over time of the players in the organization. So first we start with kind of the rules of the game. There's a footnote in the paper that talks about maybe we could call it instead institutional logics. Probably, if I would rewrite this paper, I would probably call it the logic right now rather than the rules of the game. So we can think about what is the logic that underlines the structure of attention. A second aspect of the structural distribution of attention has to do with the players. Here we talk about, who are the people in power, both in terms of formal power, informal power within the organization. Players, we can also think about it in terms of groups, not just in terms of individuals. And in many ways, the idea here is that, different individuals, different groups, in a position of power, they're able to influence the attention of others throughout the organization. So that's the notion of players as the structural determinant. A third determinant of the structural distribution of attention are the positions. Here we're talking about the formal and informal roles of individuals in organizations. We also talk about in terms of what are the structural positions of the players, say in terms of their network structure. So know where you are in the organization. Where you are will have effect. What is it that you pay attention to? And then the final determinant of the structural distribution of attention are resources. And here we have the material resources, technology that might affect what is it that individuals in organization pay attention to. So this is the paper is called Towards an Attention-Based Theory of the Firm. This really isn't a fine-grainedly developed theory, but actually one that identifies a series of factors through these three core principles of what is it that firms pay attention to. It's been a very influential article in the area of strategic management, both in terms of how it's been incorporated into other theoretical perspectives. For instance, it's very much incorporated into upper echelon's perspective on strategic management, where scholars in the upper echelon world, like Don Hambrick and Finkelstein collaborators, Teresa Cho, one of the ways they explain the effects of upper echelons on strategic decision making is in terms of what is it that these decision makers, the members of the top management groups, top management teams, pay attention to. It also has been used in other areas, including work like on areas of multinational management, looking at the attention of the particular businesses by corporate headquarters. And I myself, as I mentioned earlier, have been working on it with respect to attention within multi-business organization. It had also spread beyond the world of strategy itself, and particularly has been used by organizational theorists looking at different influences on attention of the firm, particularly sort of high-level influence. I mentioned earlier the work on the notion about institutional logics. So people like myself who have been studying the institutional logics have also seen how these kind of logics that exist outside of the organization at the level of the field, at the level of the industry, might affect the attention of firms. And this has also been a highly productive and influential series of work. So, I mean, I'm really excited by all the work that has occurred so far with respect to applying the attention-based view of the firm. There's also more theoretical work that has been done, some by myself. I had a paper in Org Science in 2011 that extends some of ideas. But, you know, I think there's a lot of further opportunities to develop and apply the attention-based view of the firm. Thank you.